Congratulations, you have almost completed your cowl. You're on your last row. It should be a row 2 in order to keep the pattern consistent. It's important that you identify which is the right and wrong side. The right side will have the little ridges where the loop has been pushed forward because you have crocheted into the back loop. You can see the difference there. One has no texture, the other has distinctive lines. That is the right side. You can also see that the pattern is running consistent. The 2-row repeat matches and there is no extra rows interfering with that pattern repeat. And the key to that will be that as you sew it together, it'll be very difficult for that seam to be visible to the eye. So let's place our work right sides together and then begin the process of joining. Fold your work over, right sides facing each other, and taking your loop where you're finished, find the first stitch. Now this is your chain beginning row. Place your hook through that first stitch and draw the loop through that hole. Now just to ensure that it doesn't pull apart at that point, after we've drawn it through, you're going to do 1 chain. Then going back into the same stitch and the first stitch on the opposite side, back loop only, because we do want to create that push forward loop to keep the pattern consistent. You'll do 1 slip stitch. Then you're going to work across the row, taking 1 stitch from the chain side, the back loop of the corresponding stitch on the opposite side, and slip stitch. Now you don't want to do this too tightly, but not too loosely either. And at some point I recommend you turn your work over, have a look at the seam, how it's sitting, and just check that it's all looking really nice. It's important that you keep your stitches corresponding so that it is even as you go across the row. Now let's just turn the work through and have a look, and you can see that because we are going through the back loop, we're creating that same ridge line, again ensuring that this will look exactly like our pattern and the seam will be near invisible. So continue working all your way across to the very end. To save you having to weave in that last thread, which was the beginning part of your chain, you can capture it at this point near the end of your work, in through the slip stitches, hiding it so that you've only got a small tail on the other side. I still recommend that you do weave that tail back in the opposite direction to secure it, but this is one way that you can reduce the amount of sew-in that you need to do. So just flip it back and forth so that your thread and slip stitch capture it in. If for some reason as you get to the end you have a 1 stitch count mismatch, don't panic and undo it. I just would do capture 1 stitch on one side and capture 2 stitches on the other. It really isn't that important. If it was a lot of stitches, then yes, you'd want to unpick it and make sure you are capturing each stitch evenly. Before you tie off your ends, I recommend that you just check everything is sitting nice and evenly. Turn your work through and have a look at your seam on the right side of the cowl. As you can see, the seam is not visible on the right side, with the pattern repeat being consistent. No one would know that you'd even joined it. And then we're going to cut the thread, pull it through, and we'll be ready to weave in that end and tie back in that last end as well. Grabbing a large eye darning needle, we're just going to work our way through the seam stitches, weaving in and out. I like to go 3 or 4 stitches forward and then come back 3 or 4 stitches and then back again in the other direction, maybe 2 stitches. What this does is when there's tension on that seam, if you've only gone in one direction, the crochet will stretch and often your weaved in end will pop out. If you've had this problem before, by going back and forth, it means that the pressure happens within the weaved portion and it cannot pop out. You'll have less likelihood of a little tail suddenly showing up. Just weave through, wind it through, come back. I've only done it there twice, you can do it back again a few stitches and we'll just snip it off. So congratulations, just weave in that last little tail from the very beginning thread that was the end of your chain as you started your work, and now you have a completed cowl. Congratulations.